and your work that you're doing?
Well, as I said, right now I'm working primarily on the jewelry pieces.
Cool.
And they are, the ones I'm working with right now are cloisonné enamel, and chain, and some other elements.
Huh, cool.
The sculpture that I've been doing most recently has been cast bronze. So I'm doing a fair bit of wax work right now, and looking for the money to cast them into bronze.
Is it expensive to do that?
Yeah, it is, unfortunately.
And when you're doing castings, don't you have to have like a metal foundry type of thing?
I've been working with a foundry in Boring.
Okay, cool.
Jim Calcano.
Cool. That's great. Well, show me a little bit about the work you're working on, a little bit about your shop.
Yeah, this area here is where I basically just do bench work.
Cool.
And it's basically set up for fabrication and finishing work, and just putting elements together. The small
assembly work for the jewelry that you're doing.
Yeah.
That's
for the most part, and sculpture too. Some of the fabricated sculpture.
That's cool. Yeah, I read on your website that you studied literature, right?
It was my first degree.
And then after
concentration in medieval literature, a minor in classics.
So you're inspired a lot by that sort of work, the aesthetic of the metallurgy and stuff.
Yeah.
And then how did you get into actually making when you were studying literature and stuff like that?
This was back in Tucson. I had a good friend back there who owned a business doing Indian jewelry. And after classes, I'd go out to his place and just play around, and got hooked on the material. The
materiality of it you just started to love?
Yeah.
And then you had already studied a good amount about the historical artifacts from those periods, I suppose. Yeah. So you had a good kind of aesthetic already in your mind.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's really neat.
And then it just sort of evolved into what it is now.
Cool. Excellent. Awesome.
I do,
the metal pressing, metal forming.
Yeah, hammering work,
yeah.
The forming work.
The forming work, yeah. And so this are primarily the kind of cold metal working kind of stuff that you do on this area, right?
Yeah, I've been working with a series of chalice and scepter forms for quite a few years.
I think I've saw some of that on your website.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, that's really nice stuff.
And this is where I do a lot of that forming. These are stakes for forming metal bowl forms. This is still one in progress.
How long does that take you to really complete a form like that?
It takes a while. You know, it starts out as a flat disc of metal, and it's just worked up with hammers. Basically, I'll use a cross peen hammer like this, and it'll be worked up over the stake in this way, working concentric circles.
Is that how you form it into a circular form by doing that, or is that how you just texture it?
Well, it starts off as a circle, and this is what brings it up into a volume.
Into the volume.
It's basically the same sort of idea as making a pinch pot out of clay, where you're compressing and stretching the material to bring it up.
Yeah, right.
It just takes a little bit longer.
Because you end up stretching this area the most, right? Because that has to be formed into the shape.
Yeah, there's probably a fairly uniform thickness coming throughout.
Right. So you need to keep that uniform thickness, you're saying? Because then all of a sudden the weighting of the bowl could be a little weird.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I do in this area here.
Yeah, that's great.
I use the hydraulic press to create forms, usually elements, not the whole form.
Yeah, right. Just pressing a general size or form, shape.
Yeah, or just an element that'll be used in something else.
Cool. Yeah. I think I used one of those presses once. You could put stuff in it and get textures onto the metal too. And
yeah, what I use for texture a lot of time is this, which is a rolling mill. And basically,
that's right. Yeah, I've done that.
It creates a lot of pressure. It's used primarily for thinning out metal.
You're right, to flatten it and to maybe even curve some thin pieces of metal, or no?
Not so much curving. But if I need a piece of 20 gauge material and all I have is 16 gauge material, this will take it down. So that's pretty much what I do there.
I would like to see these little things. Maybe you could tell us.
Yeah, these are jewelry pieces.
So this is what you've been making a lot lately?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's really great.
So
chainmail, huh? That's awesome. So do you put together the chainmail?
That's what I'm doing over there on the bench there. Is putting together the chainmail, and that's a lot of sterling.
That must be so tedious.
And yeah, it's pretty mindless.
Is it kind of difficult to do, or
no?
Is it pretty easy?
No, it's pretty easy. It's just mindless. I'd probably teach a monkey to do it.
And then now these pieces that you come up with, do you make that?
Yes, it's cloisonné enamel.
Cool.
And basically that's what this bench here is set up to do now, is work with the enamel. And
how do you do that in animal? I'm just curious.
My glasses, if I can remember where I put them.
I saw you had them, I feel like, upstairs.
Oh, I had them down here too. Maybe not. Okay, anyway, here they are.
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing I'll do is create the shape that that I'll work the enamel into. So basically I'll start with a piece of metal, silver. I usually use fine silver, pure silver. And then I'll make a rim that'll be soldered to the silver. And then on top of that I use usually a clear transparent enamel. And you have to enamel the back of it too, because you need to equalize the rates of expansion and contraction between the glass and the metal.
So if you don't do that, will it bend the piece?
It won't necessarily bend, but it'll chip off.
I gotcha. It's got to cook evenly on both sides so that it
pretty much. Basically what you're doing is trapping the metal between pieces of glass. The enamel is glass, essentially.
So is that what that is? Is that the enamel?
It's ground glass.
Ground glass. Okay, so enamel is ground glass.
Yeah, silicates colored with metal oxides.
Cool.
Glass.
Cool.
And next thing I'll do for cloisonné, this is cloisonné wire here. It's a very thin wire. And I'll create the shapes or the design or the image with the wire.
Nice.
And once that's finished, cloisonné translates to celled enamel. So you're creating cells with the wire that the enamel is packed into.
Neat.
The enamel is mixed with water and cleaned, and then I pack it in with brushes, very fine brushes.
So you drop it in with like a little funnel, or how do you drop it in to make sure?
This creates almost a thick paste. So I'll pick some up on the end of the brush.
Oh, and you could paint it in.
And then I'll pack it in.
I gotcha.
You can't really paint so much with enamel.
You can just lay it in.
You lay it in and fire it, and lay it in and fire it. So it fires, it fuses at roughly 1500 degrees. And use these kilns here to
cook it.
To fire it. It fires fairly quickly, a couple of minutes or so. And it's fused, but there may be, I don't know, 15 to 40 layers of enamel depending on what I'm doing.
So how long does it cook again?
A couple of minutes.
That's not much at all. And if you let it go longer, would it start to melt your silver?
Everything will melt.
Right.
The enamel will melt. You just have a mess.
So you got to be real careful about your cook times?
You do. I've learned early on to turn off my phone. Things like that.
So you don't overbake your goods?
Absolutely.
Boy, that would be so painful if you make something, the amount of labor and time on these, and then you overcook like one of those enamel pieces, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, it sucks.